Cool. The day is Monday.
Here right now.
What?
I said my guy Zay here right now.
Oh shit. Do I know Zay? I don't know if I know Zay.
Yeah, I hopped on your track one time on my birthday.
Really?
Hey,
Oh shit. I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna redo this. Cool. All right, sweet. So today is April 5th, and we are going to be talking about how to create a VS Code project and save it in GitHub today. Now, y'all are gonna tell me what to do. I'm gonna ask you some questions, and you're gonna tell me what to do. So let's pretend like I just opened my terminal and I'm all the way at the root. How am I going to get into a folder inside of my my Higgs code folder and create something there? How am I going to do that? CD, and then what am I looking for? And what am I looking for here now? If I'm on my home folder, what did y'all set up? What is the name of the next folder down?
Higgs, right? Higgs. You just and then you can press tab right there.
Beautiful, love it. So now I'm here. What's the next thing I'm gonna do?
Assessments.
Okay, let's say I don't have an assessments folder. What would I do?
MKDIR, make directory, and then you're gonna assessments.
Beautiful. So I would make a directory called assessments. Why don't y'all code along as well? And just tell me to slow down if you're not going fast enough. I want you to get that practice with your hands on the keyboard. So I don't want you to just say it. I want you to say it. I want you to code it. I want you to write down whatever you feel like you need to write down. Do all of that, and I'm going to work slow enough to where you can keep up, okay? Because I want you to get that practice in as many different ways as possible. Different people are different kind of learners. Maybe you learn by writing stuff down. Maybe you learn by doing. We're going to make sure you hit both of those things. So
I have a question. So MKDIR works for creating folders, but for creating files, it's a different one.
What's the different one called? Cam, what's the one for creating files instead of folders?
Touch.
Yep, it's touch. So literally, I'm going to do this here. I'm going to do touch assessments. And now if I do ls, notice how I have an assessments. Oh, it actually didn't create it. It didn't even create an assessments file because I already have an assessments folder. But let's just do touch assessments.js and then I ls. What are the files in black versus the files in blue for me?
So the blue is your folders.
Yep, the blue is the folders, and what are the black ones, Cam?
The black ones are files.
Right. Okay, cool. So how do I remove assessments.js?
RM.
RM, and then what's going to go here?
-RS/RS, something like that.
So the -RF is a flag for removing a folder. But if I want to remove assessments.js, is that a folder or a file?
It's a
file. So
it's just RM.
yeah.
And then how am I going to type that in?
Assessment, but you can press tab.
Yep. And I have a bunch of things that start with ass. So I have to, do a little bit of manual work to get it to assessments.js. Bam. And now if I list, okay, cool. Assessments.js is gone. Now I'm going to go ahead and how am I going to get into my assessments folder?
CD.
Cool. CD what?
Assessments.
Beautiful. Okay, is that good to go?
So that gets you into your assessments folder.
Yep. And now how am I going to open? Let's not even do it in our assessments folder because what I was thinking is I'm going to have multiple assessments. This is just the first one. So what I'm going to do is, for me, let's say this is my day one assessment. I'm going to make a directory and I am going to call it assessment one. Or maybe I'll do underscore and then maybe do day one. So now what I'm doing is I'm creating a folder for my first attempt at trying this assessment. So I go ahead and do that. And how am I going to open that folder now? There's two ways. We'll do both of them.
So we could go into that file and then so we could CD.
Yep.
MK.
By the way, is this a folder or a file that I'm CDing into?
A folder.
Yep. Can I CD into a file?
No.
You cannot CD into a file. Cool. Awesome. So I'm going to CD into what?
Assessments. Yeah.
Nope. I'm going to CD into assessment one, day one.
Day one.
Yep. So I'm just going to do, whoops. Cool. Now I'm in here. Now what am I going to do to open up this project in code?
Code.
Just typing code.
Cool. And what does that dot mean?
That period.
Open up that folder.
folder,
Open up which folder?
the current one.
Assessment one, day one.
Current one that you're inside of. So how do I CD out of this folder? We're going to try doing it the other way. How do I CD out of this folder? Both ways are important to know.
CD space dot dot.
Cool. CD space dot dot. Now I'm out of this folder. Now I can also, since I can, what's the other way that I could reference this folder once I'm outside of it? I could type in code and then what?
The folder name.
Yep, I could just put the folder name there and bam. Now we've opened up a new project in VS Code. Now to check that I've opened up the correct project, there's a couple things I could do. I can look at on the top, what does it say is open? Oh, okay. It says assessment one, day one is open. Cool. That tells me I opened the folder that I was interested in. Also, I can do what command to pull up my terminal?
J. Command J. Control J.
What do you think, Cam?
Command J.
Beautiful. Command J. We are in. We're in now. So now we have assessment one, day one pulled up, right? Cool. So what is different about this terminal and the other terminal?
This is colored.
Literally, it's just the color and where it is. There is nothing really different about this. So how do I create a file from inside of this terminal?
Touch.
Touch.
So I do touch. And what file am I asked to make in a what? How would I make an HTML file right now?
Index.html.
Yup. Why index.html? Out of curiosity, why is it index.html and not fuck you.html or cheese.html or doomslayer.html? This is a good question. So like, this is a tricky question too. Do y'all remember that tool called Light Server? So Light Server, when I run it, it looks for an index.html.
Okay.
So let's just test this out real quick. Watch this. I'm going to make 3 different files. I'm going to make an index.html. I'm going to make, bless you by the way, a doomslayer.html. And I am actually going to make a cheese.html. And now I have 3 different HTML files, right? This is kind of trippy, right? I am going to do the same thing in all of them. How do I pull up all of that boilerplate code for a basic HTML code?
Exclamation.
Yep. So I'm going to pull in exclamation. I'm going to tab it out. And I am just going to do, how do I make a heading element for this? And where does it go? Lawrence.
H1.
Yep. So
And
there's,
it goes, I'd say on like underneath body, this one.
yep. You could also, by the way, for the record, during lessons, feel free to call out a line of code by number. So you see how like right now I'm on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you could be like, oh, I'd put it on line 10. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good, I want y'all to practice that because like in interviews, a lot of times that's a good way of communicating with people. Like, oh, in between lines 8 and 10, blah, 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 blah. I'm just throwing that out there.
What's
Doesn't
it
need to
called,
be
a
in
boiler?
boilerplate. So in general, boilerplate means the code that gets you started that you don't even necessarily need to know how it works. You just need to get that like starter code is what I would think of it as. Okay. So how am I going to start this H1 element, Cam?
I just would type H1 and enter.
H1. Oh yeah, for me I have to hit tab. That works. Yep. And what cool. Let's not, do you feel comfortable on like what HTML is and how it works?
Not really.
Okay, so let's talk about this then for a little. So what are the elements of an HTML tag? What is this part called? Cam, Lawrence, whoever wants to answer, sorry.
The opening tag.
Opening tag, Lawrence, what would this part be called?
Closing tag.
Cool, and then what is inside of here? If I just write some text, what would you call that? Whoops. We would call this part Inner,
content.
I would call this inner text.
Inner text.
Inner content would be if you had like a more complex element. For example, this H1 is part of the inner content for this body. Does that make sense? You could call it inner content also. It's kind of like both of them are rectangles, but inner text is the square in this circumstance. So inner text is a more specific descriptive thing. So I would just prefer if it's only text that you call it inner text. That will come in handy later. All right, cool. So Lawrence, what's this part called of this body tag?
The opening,
Cool. Point towards the closing tag.
this one.
Nice.
On 11.
And what would you call this part?
The same thing. I mean, it's inner, or no, it's not inner text, but
Inner. You can call it a few things.
like inner tabs or
I would call it inner HTML. That's a one way to call it. You're gonna, if you remember that for JavaScript, you can call it inner HTML. You can call it inner content. I don't know exactly what you want to call it, but if this was only text, you could also call it inner text. But the general idea is that whatever is after this thing and before this thing is the content inside of it.
okay.
Cool. All right, so we're going to give this a name. I am just going to say this is my cheese.html, right? And that way we know which HTML we're looking at. I'm going to show y'all something cool about Light Server. This is actually a little bit ahead of where you need to be, but there's no reason for me not to show you this stuff right now. Cool. So I am going to go ahead. I'm going to hit Command and P. This is an advanced one. You don't have to get good at this now, but I will recommend if you try it out every now and then, it's going to save you a bunch of time. I want to open doomslayer.html. So I'm going to paste all of that in there. Do y'all know how to copy and paste with your keyboard? What's the command for copy, Cameron?
You say for copy.
Yep. What's the command for copying?
Copying what?
Anything, text. If I want to copy all this, what would the command be?
Oh, Command C. Okay.
Beautiful. What's
How do you select all that shit like that though?
command? Good thing you asked. Command A is, I think of that like all. Command A. And then in Vim, there's a different key command that you don't need to know. But I actually have to go to the bottom, hit V, go to the top. Don't worry about that though. That's some Vim shit. Cool. So now I want you to copy all of this, and I want you to go into your index.html and paste that. The next thing that I want you to do is go into all these files and make sure that the text inside of the H1 lets you know which element you're on or which page you're on. So inside of the index.html, you want to call this index.html. That way you know. I don't care what it's spelled like. Give that a save. In the Doomslayer one, you want to call this doomslayer.html. And now what I want you to do is inside of your terminal, I want you to go ahead and type in Light Server. But before you press enter, I want you to make a prediction on what you are going to see on your screen and why. And I want each of you to do it and make your argument. Cam, what do you think I'm going to see on my screen when I press enter on this Light Server, when I open up my browser?
You're going to see Cheese HTML, Doomslayer HTML, Index HTML, all on the same line. And
Okay. Why?
Just because that's what's in the heading tags. So that has to display on the page.
Okay, so good guess. What do you think?
I was thinking something kind of along the same thing. Like you're gonna see, like I think you'll just see, I don't know, some like weird stuff written on the thing. But I think or actually, I think you'll only see one. Just the index,
Which one?
The index one.
Just the index one? Why?
I just feel like index is important for whatever reason.
Okay, cool. So Lawrence is right off a guess. So we'll talk about why. Light Server always starts off serving your index.html, okay? always starts off serving your index.html. And I kind of want to show you how your website works here. If you want to access your doomslayer.html, you can access it by typing in exactly /doomslayer.html. So now here, I'm on my doomslayer.html. If I want to go to my, what was the other one? Cheese. I just go to cheese.html. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So your index is always localhost whatever and nothing else. So for me, it's localhost 3001. For y'all, it's probably localhost 3000, whatever.
How do you run my server again?
You literally just type in light-server.
Oh,
Yeah, no space. It's one command. Sorry about that.
okay.
Cool. All right, are y'all feeling a little bit better than before about everything?
Mhm.
Cool.
Definitely.
Are y'all gonna practice all that shit before Wednesday?
I have the website that I was building.
Nice.
You remember that build that shit? Let me show you, man.
Wait, let's keep going on this at the end of class.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So now we kind of have a rough idea of what's going on here. Now,
Yeah.
let's try doing some other fancy stuff. Actually, first, let's get this thing on GitHub. Let's get some GitHub practice in today. Is that okay with y'all?
Yeah.
Y'all cool with some GitHub stuff? All right. So I'm going to pause this recording and do another one. That way I can just do a GitHub one. Actually, let me do stop recording. So up to this point, we made a thing in VS Code. The next thing we're going to talk about is GitHub.